Hey, it's Amelia, aka Big Tit.
And I'm Natasha, aka Little Tit.
And together, we're the Graveyard Girls.
Welcome to today's episode.
Yeah, and today we're going to have a bit of a discussion about a Netflix, mini-series that's on there, docu-series, whatever you want to call it.
It's another modern one.
Yeah.
And why I wanted to do it this time is because this case was not the one that I kind of got me into the idea of doing a podcast, but kind of did with you. Because I remember being at work and the children were just missing at this point.
Okay.
Oh, before we it's the Lori Vallow Daybell.
Sins of Our Mother, it's called.
On Netflix. So when I was at work, the children were just missing at this point, and I don't think she was arrested at this point. And then
it was quite a few months later.
Yeah, I was hoping that the kids were in a court, and that's why they couldn't find them. And then I was hoping that they're they're in a court. The mum's been arrested
that's
now.
Only better,
No, but it's the better alternative than what happened. But yeah, we sat down and watched this this series on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I've got quite strong opinions.
Yes, you and I both.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we might as well just sort of start at the beginning. And immediately for me, in the first few minutes of the episode, I was initially thinking, she's either going to be some sort of narcissist, but then I was also thinking she's clearly a very sensitive person. It sort of goes in straight away to describe her family. They're very religious.
I was very surprised that they managed to get her son Colby on the show, actually.
I was very surprised.
That was very interesting. And then later on, it's got her mother on the show.
And I want to say either her dad or someone, in the very first few minutes, it mentioned, it was very clear to me instantly that they were very religious, but she was an incredibly sensitive person, which also then sent to me, before I even went anywhere, I was thinking, she's going to be able to be easily manipulated. I wonder if she's going to end up in a cult. That was my instant thought in the first, minute of watching.
Okay, that's interesting. I just thought, she's from a Mormon family. They're slightly different to, my understanding of other religions, because is it the men can have multiple wives in a Mormon family? Yeah, so I was just okay, a bit different.
But yeah, so I instantly thought she's going to get manipulated somehow or end up with some, and I was thinking is this, my instant thought was a cult, and then I was thinking back to, is it the 70s and 80s when they had those mass cults where they were all linked with religion, and I thought she's going to end up in one of them. And that was literally from the first few minutes. I instantly thought that.
Kind of. I mean,
I wasn't far off.
Kind of. I mean, I know it starts off with Colby and it comes back to this first scene later on, but it's when he phones his mum, Lori, about where are the kids, and she's very dismissive of and then she's she'll email them. She emails them later and she's oh, they're fine, they're whatever, and it's just she's very casual. Is it blasé as well? And it's
I think that's probably quite a good word.
And I was just
describe it.
She does love her children, but there's something that switches. Yeah,
and I think for me, it was also striking she has some sort of mental health issue. That
does come into it.
And especially later on once she's been arrested. But even from the beginning, I was thinking I don't want to say unstable because I think it's more she's easily manipulated, but I feel there's something that's gone on from childhood and it's just not necessarily been picked up, if that makes sense. Maybe it wasn't, how childhood is, it didn't really manifest itself in that sense, and it's not until she's got older, because she struck me as that person. I don't think she's necessarily vain, because as it sort of then goes into, she does all these pageants and things like that, I don't think it's from a vain perspective in the sense that she really loves herself. I think she was constantly looking for acceptance in people, she wanted people to like her, and I got that impression even with her children. Even later on when she's again speaking to Colby, she's she wants his approval of everything, and I felt it's the same, because she ends up with 5 husbands in the end.
But it's also they're on about she kind of especially Colby's wife, she gets in and she has to manipulate stuff so it's her way.
But is that her fear of losing him, and then he won't love her as much, or he won't accept her as much? I think it's a fear, and I think that's where the mental health comes in.
I mean,
and same with these other husbands that she's had for so long. I think instantly it's she wants them to love her, she wants them to, she does all these things, she tries to play or manipulate it in a way that they're going to love her the most, and then it just doesn't really work out whether they get bored of it or it's not what she thinks it was going to be.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, the fear of abandonment is, it is linked to mental health, which I have. So it's like...
But it is closely linked. Like I said, I think it's that whole thing. I don't think it's a vain thing. I think it comes across maybe that a little bit sometimes, like she's really self-obsessed with things, but I generally don't. I think she's constantly looking for acceptance and to please other people. Like I think she wants people to like her, not in a sense of I think I'm brilliant, but of she just doesn't want to be alone.
I think that, but then I think later on her personality does change where it is. Like,
but could that be also linked with a mental health condition?
Maybe. I mean, she was...
It just manifests differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely something going on inside her head. It's not normal behaviour.
It's not normal behaviour. No, it's not.
But even long before everything sort of kicks off, it wasn't... I don't know. There's a lot of things she does that to me just doesn't seem normal.
No.
If that makes sense.
No.
Whatever you want to class normal as.
I mean, and like, I didn't know this, but Lori's third husband, he ended up being aggressive and
he was supposed to have assaulted the
Colby,
children.
and I think that might be the thing that triggers and is the catalyst for Lori.
It sort of cuts into her speaking a bit later on what would be her later podcast, and she describes how awful her husband was. I do think it could be a catalyst, but I think there was things sitting before it that was just a bit of a ticking time bomb. Yeah. And then that was it. It's like that's not made a snap. And then completely gave her a different perspective. I think she was already on that path.
Yeah. She was definitely already on that path,
and then that was like the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, when I found out that she had a podcast, I was like, oh no, she's got a podcast.
I thought that.
I had no idea. I think that was the one thing that I did not know about. Well, the sexual assault of her children and the podcast. And I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, I thought, well, even that podcast, when it first cuts into it and she doesn't have a lady, what's the lady's name? Is it Melanie or something like that? The way they were talking, I know it sounds silly, but I felt like they were in some sort of like witch, you know, like it made me think of the witch trials. You know, they're talking about like in the fire and like burning, like the way they were saying it. I was thinking like, this is going to be a witch trial. And then I thought, are they going to be like doing magic or something? And then I wondered, you know, like after the cult thing, I thought, oh my God, is it going to be a magical thing? And they're going to be doing like potions and
I did write down.
And...
Hold on, there's a bit. Yeah, because I've never heard of like heavenly fire. Yeah. And I was like, surely that's the other place.
Yeah, but that's what I thought. It was like about burning everything. Like something like I can feel the fire or something.
I put heavenly fire. What is that? It's like, that doesn't make sense to me.
But yeah, it was talking about burning. And
if
all
you
I
have
kept
to go through fire,
was witches and witch trials.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was like instantly in my head what I was thinking. And then, like I said, because it was still really early on in the episode, I thought, is it going to be a cult? Or is it going to be like a witch thing and they're going to start doing spells like she sacrifices...
her children.
The children, yeah.
Well, maybe. I did like that they threw in like the weird cult parts in where it's like, it is the podcast. I don't know if that is from her podcast, but where it's like, it's a circle and you're looking at stuff. And I was just like, if someone walks in on this, it looks like I'm like taking part in a ritual or something. I'm just like, it's for something I'm doing. But no, that was very a strange thing. Yeah, I've never heard of heavenly fire.
No, I've not. I mean, to be fair, granted, I don't really follow.
To be fair,
religion.
Yes, we are not religious. But when that came up, I was just like, I don't think that's the right place.
But and I suppose it's only snippets. I suppose she could have been talking about the hell she's been through, so maybe that's where it comes in, and maybe that's where it's relevant.
So after she left Joe, her third husband, who is Tylee's dad, she eventually met Charles.
Yes.
Charles seems like he's a pretty decent guy.
I like Charles. I felt very sorry for Charles, not just because he ultimately ends up dead.
Yeah.
He was like the most sane person in it to me, and I hated how everyone made him out to be the mad person.
But this goes to Lori's manipulation of everything, because she told Colby that like, oh, he's a cheater, he's lying, and then Colby's like, yeah, he's right. He looked like he was the guilty party. He did look guilty,
but I think it's because he was so desperate to get her help.
Yeah.
That it made him look suspicious.
Yeah, well,
because when you look at other cases, it is these men trying to push women. Traditionally, you think like sending them to an asylum. Yeah. Like, it looked like he was trying to push her in to get a mad woman, then he would have claimed her money and moved on, had another wife.
Yeah.
I see why it was perceived in that way.
Especially as he's like mass emailing the entire family. She's like, please don't read these. Colby's like, this is between you. We shouldn't be reading this. Which is very good of him.
Yeah. quite mature from that perspective.
But it's also like how alone Charles must have felt.
Yeah, and how desperate is the thing I sort of thought.
Yeah.
But also then when it goes on to thing with the police and he's sort of saying it and they're just like, right, okay. And then even later on in the episode, you know, when he ends up taking her purse out of the car, and you can see that female officer being like, he's done something wrong, like he's in the wrong.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, I'm going to wait for the other sheriff. It wasn't manager, but I can't remember what it was.
Kind of like the management,
Yeah. She was like, I'm waiting for him to come, but she wasn't like rolling her eyes at him, but she was a bit like, you're in the wrong, you've just stolen these belongings off this woman.
But she took his rental car.
Yeah, and his kids effectively.
Yeah, so it was very strange of like how she could take the children. She could essentially take everything from his house. She admitted that to the police.
Oh, I hated that in that interview when the guy, like, it just goes to show how charming she was, and that male officer, and he was just like, well, you seem sane to me, and I was just like,
yes,
that's going to come back to I hope they played that in court, because that would massively be coming back to bite him on the arse.
But it was so frustrating because it was just like she admittedly multiple crimes,
and she was like laughing about it.
Yes. Oh, I wanted my lip gloss.
It was weird in that as well, because the other friend Melanie was in the room. Obviously, I know she didn't sit next to him, but it was like she was there as a representative. That's what I thought. You know, when she was sat across the thing.
Oh, was Melanie there?
Yeah, she was in there.
Was she?
Yeah. Oh. She almost sat next to the police officer. Like, they brought the chairs in. Obviously, Tylee sat next to her.
Yeah.
And then in what would have been this corner, so they were sat there, the police officer was here. She was sat in a chair. You see her, she's half blanked out, but you see her walk in and sit in this chair.
Oh, I didn't notice that was
like
Melanie.
She was, you know, where you'd have like an appropriate adult or
Melanie,
representation, the one that she does the podcast with.
Oh, Melanie Gibb. So not the niece.
I don't think it was the niece, no.
It's very confusing.
I know there was a few. I know they said it was definitely Melanie, but it struck me as the one that she does a podcast with. I'm sure they said her friend, so her friend Melanie, because I felt like, because then I also wonder where she was going to come in it, because I was a bit like, well, it's a bit weird for her to go in. Like, fair enough, go to the police station with them, but then to sit in the interview, like, she didn't really say anything from what you can work out, or at least not in the bits that they used.
It probably wasn't like an arrested thing. It's probably just like just sitting. Yeah. Even though she admitted crimes. But yes, after she met Charles, she married him. They adopted JJ, who is Charles's
sister's child.
Yes.
She obviously couldn't take care of him. So who would have been JJ's parents? So Charles's parents, grandparents. Sorry. So Charles's parents. They obviously were a bit older. They wanted a younger family to sort of bring him up, and that's where obviously Charles played in. Now that he was now married to Lori and she already had kids, it was like the perfect family unit. So they officially adopted him, and that's how he ended up.
And Tylee apparently adored JJ. She was like, close. He's my child.
There was a little clip that they added. Like, you could tell they were really close, but you could also tell like Colby was really close, especially with his sister.
Well,
I think he's still with JJ as well, but particularly with Tylee.
Especially like he grew up with Tylee as a baby, and then this is where they moved to Hawaii.
Yes,
and it's like Kauai.
I was very confused at first when they kept saying it on the thing. I was like, "What? Like, is it the same place, or is it a place in a place?"
So Hawaii is the state, and then Kauai. But there is
it's a place in a place.
There is also Hawaii, the island.
Okay,
but Hawaii, the state. But they were in Kauai.
Okay,
so yes, they stayed there for 3 years.
Yeah,
this confused me because it was like, did they not go to school? Because it seemed like they did, but they also didn't.
Yeah, I think because we forget, we just think of an island, like they've gone somewhere foreign and then they're just like random there. So they were either homeschooled, or I think they did go to school.
Yeah.
And then is that where they joined the newer church, the Latter-day Saints?
Yes, I think they were, they weren't already Latter-day. They were Mormon, but they were Latter-day when they moved to Hawaii, or a slightly different version of...
Yeah, I get very confused.
I do.
On the surface, they're all effectively preaching the same thing.
Yes.
But then there's like different sections in it, and that's where all these different ones come in. So they still basically believe like Jesus and Christ, like the whole thing. It's just
a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little spicy, or it's got a little mayo or something. It's got a different ingredient maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where that woman who is Lori's friend, I can't remember her name, Lori starts confiding in her that her and Charles aren't as like...
But I feel like she bullshitted that. I don't think that was a thing.
But she said like Lori felt that Charles wasn't spiritually her equal, which
I agree.
I believe with.
But then she started saying stuff about the marriage. You know, like later on when they look back at it, she was saying stuff about him in the marriage, like he wasn't good, all this other stuff. I don't believe he did any of those things. I think that was
Lori.
her.
No, I think Lori might have said some stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, because like we know people who like are in a relationship. One side is
Yeah.
the truth, the other side is her version is but that's what she spreads.
Yeah, and
so
that's
it looks
how,
like
yeah. I suppose in one way you could say it's how they perceive it.
It's also like she has to control the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So what's next? They end up moving back from Hawaii after 3 years for some reason, because Laurie's like, even though Lori was in Hawaii, they were like, oh, she was like, this is the place to be, this is the husband she was supposed to marry, this is the child she was supposed to adopt. For some reason she was just like, okay,
I wondered
now
if
we
it was
need
more
to
to
go.
move back closer to her family. That's the impression I got. And then also Colby wanted to go to university, college, whatever it is. And I felt like that was also closer to where they then moved to. So was it just easier to uproot the whole family? That's what I'm sort of thinking.
Yes, and this is where Colby ends up re-meeting his future wife. And then this is where Laurie's like kind of manipulative, or like, as Kelsey says, she like snakes her way in to control everything.
And then there's all the weird things that come out later where Tylee doesn't end up being at the wedding because she was apparently on a school trip.
Yeah.
Which again, I think that's where Lori started to lose the plot, and that's where I feel like she's definitely like the bomb's first gone off and she started to do strange things, but I don't think everyone around her necessarily notices it too much. They just see it as maybe a quirk in her behaviour. Yeah,
and this is where Laurie's brother Alex would find them podcasts to listen to, where it's like all the spiritual type podcasts.
When it started mentioning the brother, I was like, I was not expecting that. But then that's where, for me, later on, if you want to go back to the whole mental health thing, I wonder if there's something throughout the whole family. Because for both her and the brother, I feel like there was. And then that's when, again, it also reaffirmed the thing. I was like, yeah, this is going to go a bit cult-like.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like modern day cult.
Well, yeah, cults still exist. So then this is where she has her own podcast. So this is where she starts going to conferences, which is called a preparing of people. And this is where the other person
Chad.
comes in.
I do not like him. As soon as I saw him, my first instinct was, I thought it was then they were literally about to go into the old courts where they killed off thousands of people. I was like, he's going to be one of those leaders. And I stick by this. It might be a bit controversial to some people and people might not like it. If he and Lori had been allowed to carry on, no word of a lie, they would have been the leaders of the next major cult that had killed off thousands of people. Well, you know when you see those religious ones where they've like, then they do like a mass suicide, whatever it is. He would have been one of those leaders because he genuinely believed.
The person who they were speaking to, I can't remember his name, I didn't take it down. He was like, there's 200,000 zombies and they wanted to kill 20,000 of them or something.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not...
They were allowed, what was it? 144,000 people were allowed to make it out of the apocalyptic thing and the rebirth of Jesus.
Yeah.
But when you look back at those other cults and how they started, it's a man like him who does it, and he drags his wife into it, who would eventually be the Lori figure.
Yep.
If they had not been arrested when they were, no word of a lie, that would have turned into a mass cult, because he was already gathering a following. Yeah. He was already an established author. Yeah. She was obviously with her podcast getting a whole new load of views. He was charming. She was easily manipulated, but she was also very good at convincing people.
This is kind of like a Ted Bundy thing to me, where I don't think he's very charismatic at all.
No, I don't.
He's very shy and meek. I don't see like what's the appeal.
But that's where then part of me, by this point, rather than her being like besotted by him, has she seen him also as a, oh, okay, I could see how this works. Like, maybe she saw that in his delusions, that he's so delusional, he believes it so much that she could also use that to her advantage.
But she's also like, he's on the spiritual level to me. What really annoyed me is what he said. He said, let me find it. When they first met, he told her that they have been married multiple times. Yeah. But not in this one yet.
Yeah. And so it's like, it must go ahead. And it's those first few texts, like they in the docu-series, like they share texts between them.
That is very good.
The one on his first day, it's like, I love you, blah, 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 all this other stuff, like the first meeting, like, is meant to be. It's so manipulative between the pair of them. Yeah. But you also see how he sucks her in.
Yeah. And it's like, it's reassuring her. It's like the, whether they believe in whatever they're both thinking or not, he's the reassurance of like, oh, she's not being weird.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, oh, I was a god in another life, and then like
she's probably gone away, like maybe like been a bit charmed by him. Like, you know when you meet someone and you kind of like them and you feel a bit good about it, you're like, I don't know whether they like me or not, blah blah blah. Then like you sort of walk away, and then like he sends those messages. She's like, so he definitely is interested. Like, I didn't get it wrong. I did. Yeah. My feeling was right. Like that. He jumped on that so quickly.
And also, I think that because she's kind of the way she is, she's blonde. She can be attractive to some. He's probably not used to that kind of attention. Yeah. So he's also like, well, what's one thing I could do?
When you looked at him and his current wife, when you compared like Lori, like she looked like what would society would consider a more attractive woman. So to him, it's probably like, not that I would have said he was punching above his weight, but it's a bit of a harsh comment. But you know what I mean? When you look at the outside, like he had a lovely wife.
Yeah.
He had a great family.
Yeah.
She comes along, and like, but to look at, if you put them together, they would be like dream team. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got the looks, they've got the power. Like, if you want to convince people in, like, even, and I just constantly kept thinking back to those other cults. You know, when they get the other many wives involved, they're typically very young, beautiful women.
Yep.
And that's who they use to lure more followers in. That's what she was. She was the younger, beautiful, more beautiful woman that would be soft and caring. She's a good mother. She'd be able to lure all the other followers in. And I genuinely think if they hadn't been stopped when they were, that's what she would have been.
Yeah. So this is where the series like moves on from Lori, goes to Chad. Mm-hmm. So we go back a little bit through Chad's life. So he goes cliff diving, and this is where he has his first near-death experience.
He apparently goes unconscious, hits his head.
Yeah. Which starts him writing all the books.
Yeah.
And then he meets his wife, Tammy, but she's more outgoing, more lively compared to his like quiet, meek demeanor. So they're interesting in the way they are, but they seem to have a happy marriage.
Yeah, everyone that, when you looked at the friends and the family from their side, they were like, it was like the perfect sort of relationship. Like, they bounced well off each other, if you like.
And then this is where he starts writing his books. And then he has his own publishing company to do the books. And Chad believes in the apocalypse. They don't really touch on Tammy's belief here. They do a little bit, but Chad is more like
I think that's
extreme.
More because she said they can't interview her. So, and I'm like, his side of him, like his kids obviously didn't want anything to do with this docuseries. So I think that's more why you didn't find out more about her. Yeah.
And then he believes that Rexburg is the New Jerusalem, which is very convenient because I think this is where he is. So he thinks he is God.
Yeah, so Lori eventually ends up moving to where him and Tammy live.
And he's very pompous of himself, and he thinks that his books are scripture.
Yes.
So he
treats it like it's the Bible, effectively.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Lori goes along with it. She believes it.
Yeah. That she seems smitten with him, but no one seems to notice.
Yeah. No one thinks it's weird, but then is it because they've so cloaked it in so well with the religion, that's how they've got away with it? Because I think that's how they do it. You look at all these things, that's how they do it. That's how they get people in.
Yeah.
And then you're in and you're stuck.
Yes. And ever since like Lori started to hang out with Chad, Lori started to tell her friends that her husband Charles is dead and there's a demon living inside of him.
I know, I hated that when he speaks to the police and he was like, oh, she thinks like there's a darkness in me, or what was it? Was he Ned or Nick or someone?
Schneider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
you can just really see him. That he's trying like...
He's trying to explain it without sounding mad.
Yeah, but like you can't. Because
there isn't
trying
a way
to explain
you can rationalise it.
Because like trying to explain this whole case is like, my God, it's gonna... There's so many twists and turns.
Yeah, twists and turns.
So many like, okay, this death happened first. But no, this death happened another time, and then this person was murdered. This person was... It's just like, there's so much death.
Well, this is it. Well, then obviously after this all starts going on, obviously Lori's family is a bit split because she has the two brothers. Now, one is friends with Charles.
Yeah, he is on his side. But I think because he's out of the state, he's not like in with
and away from the whole family. Because I feel like the mum's also sort of on Lori's side.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I know it's her daughter, but still. Whereas I think Adam, the other brother, the one that's on the outside, he can have a much better view of it because he's not stuck in the middle of it.
Yeah, so this is where Charles is emailing everyone. No one's talking to him but Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously Alex sides with Lori on it.
But I think because Alex is... I don't know...
I also think that's, like I said, going back to mental health, I think he's also vulnerable. And I think that's why... Yeah. I think he has some sort of mental health. And whether it's the same thing with what she's got or whether it's another type, something runs in the family somewhere. That's what would have been interesting to find out if there was more, you know, in other generations. Yeah. And I feel like he's also vulnerable in another way. So it's easy for... Laurie's easily manipulated, but she's also then able to easily manipulate people like Alex.
Yeah, yeah. And then this is where Charles is away on a business trip. Lori gets Alex to, like, basically steal Charles's car from the airport.
Yeah.
She takes the kids, all of Alex's
stuff out of the house.
Charles's stuff out of the house, yes. This is where he's just like... You see him on the body cam talking to the police like... She's out of her mind and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, she's took my kids. I don't know where she's gone. And at this point, he had tried to serve her with the thing for her to check into a mental facility for like a
psych eval.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I was going to say validation, and I was like, that's not right.
Oh, I mean,
it's evaluation.
She passes with flying colours somehow.
Yeah,
because this is where she sits down with the police. Yeah, because he's like trying to get to JJ and like everything. This is where she like charms the police into like letting her go and
oh no, I'm just so reasonable, and they obviously fall for it. So obviously Charles tries to steal C's son. They're obviously, as a result of this, end up splitting up. Charles stays where he is. Lori moves.
Yes. And then a little while later, Charles is like going to see the kids to take JJ to school. This is where Charles is communicating with Adam, Laurie's other brother, and they're going to be like an intervention. Somehow Lori like finds out about it.
Yeah, or she has a feeling about it. And then she gets Alex to stay with her because she was like, they're going to try and do something. And that's, again, it's another manipulation tactic on her point to get Alex involved. She's like, Alex, you've got to stay with me because they're going to try and make us do something. And he's like, okay, I've got you. Like, you know, when it showed the text, like, it's all linked in with religion and like, it's like our time and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, like, I really don't like it.
No. And then we find out that Charles is then shot by Alex. And then, like, it's so weird that, like, Alex said something like, oh, they left before I shot him. But then Laurie's saying that she was literally walking out the house, shot twice, takes them to Burger King,
KFC, I think it was, and then
whichever for breakfast,
and then gets flip-flops or shoes or something,
and then comes back, and then she's just like, oh, he's my husband,
driven around the block.
What really annoyed me is that, like, you don't see them like say anything to Lori like why the police are there. She just immediately goes like, oh, he's my husband, but the police are talking to Alex sat on the floor. So it's like, why? One, if she knew nothing about it, why would she be like, oh, he's my husband? She's not bothered. Oh, we've only moved here for like 3 weeks and that's why they don't know us. And she's just...
And it was really hard because I know why they did it. They obviously had to blank Tylee's face out in the thing, obviously for her protection. But I would have been interested to see if else, because I got the impression she was crying in that thing. He didn't say, but there was something the officer said. It was almost like he was about to say, are you okay? He didn't. He paused and then asked something else, and then he, like, the way he did it, asked her about her driving license. He tried to be a bit light-hearted and jokey to make her feel more at ease, but I got the impression if you could have seen her face, she would have looked terrified and worried. And the reason I think that is she saw him getting shot. She was in that house. You know, later on in that interview when she says about the bat thing, I don't think she had the bat and came out and then he took the bat off her. I think they'd already shot him. She was fucking shitting her pants, and the mum was like, we're going to be in trouble. You're going to tell me he tried to attack me. You got out a bat. He took the bat off you, and so then we left, and Uncle Alex then had to shoot him in self-defense. That child saw him being shot. Yeah,
because, like, I thought, like, Tylee, like, really adored Charles. But then, like, when in the interview, it's like, oh, I was like, you can't touch my mum. I'm like, poking him with the bat.
Lori made her do that. That was nothing. And you know, later on when they obviously end up moving again, and it comes back that Tylee was crying, and the grandma asked what's wrong, and Colby asked what's wrong. She was crying because she desperately wanted to tell someone that she knew they'd killed him on purpose. And even later, like, I had that idea in my head before, but then when they mentioned that, I was like, she was upset in the interview. She was being told what to be said by her mum. the reason she was crying on that day when they left was because that was like her last chance to tell them that they murdered him. It wasn't self-defense.
No.
And she wanted to say something, but she was so taken over by her mum and everything else that she felt like she couldn't say something, and ultimately that is what got her killed.
Well, she's so like, obviously she's a teenager, she's going to have her own opinions and thoughts and whatever, but she's always been with her mum, and her mum, she's going to see her mum as like, her mum's not going to lie to her mum's not going to say the wrong thing, so she might believe some of what her mum's saying.
I don't know. I think, to some extent, maybe she does believe a bit of it, but I also think she's partly scared of her mum.
Yes.
She loves her mum,
Yeah.
but she now also knows what her mum's capable of. So is it a case of, I'm going to go along with it because if I don't, I'm going to die. I'll be the next one.
Probably. And it's also, this is where Alex calls 911 apparently 43 minutes after he called Lori, and he never performed CPR. You could tell he was never performing CPR, and Charles was shot twice in the chest. One is when he's on the ground.
Yeah.
Then Lori tells her son that he died of a heart attack.
She also told other people that he committed suicide.
Yes. And she sent a text to Charles's sons.
Oh, I hated that when she just did it over text, and then they were texting back like, what's going on, tell us what's happened.
She's like, oh, we can't find out. It's like, I'm trying to put JJ to bed. It's like, he's been 3 hours, you can tell us what. Like,
and then she was like talking about the coroner's office.
Yeah, I let someone know that their friend died. We are not on speaking terms, but I phoned them.
Yeah.
She could at least fucking called. And then it was just like, oh, you could have told him, one, that he was shot.
Yeah.
Didn't bother doing that. Two, it was by your own brother. It's just, why tell JJ's school that he committed suicide? Tell Colby that he had a heart attack. Kelsey's really good because she's like, oh, I don't believe anything that your mum's saying. So she's already like, I don't believe it. Yes. This is 4 days later. She tries to file an insurance claim, but finds out she's no longer the beneficiary of the $1 million.
Which is where later on they'll bring up her motive is money. I think it is more than the money. I don't think that was the sole motivator for killing Charles.
And this is when Lori takes the kids to Rexburg, and this is where Tylee is crying on the phone to her grandma.
Yeah, and the last time they see each other, it's like she wants to say something, but she doesn't. And to me, that is her, like, she knows that she can't get away now. But I also feel there's an element of she knows she's in a lot of danger, because ultimately now she's the only one that knows the truth. That makes her, one, she's a liability. Two, I think at that point she's already thinking she's going to die next. Yeah, I know it sounds horrible, but I think she already thinks that, and obviously ultimately she does end up dead. I think she knew that was coming. I don't think it was done in a way that it was a surprise thing and she didn't know she was going to die. I think that kid knew she was going to die.
Maybe. And then I can't remember who it said, but then they mentioned that JJ like repeats a lot of stuff, and that's why he might have been...
Yeah, because he has autism.
Yeah.
So he, in that sense, like I said, he kept repeating key phrases as what the other families were saying. So if he would have he doesn't have to have witnessed anything. He could have overheard a conversation. Yes. If he's picking up the wrong thing and then goes to school and says it, that also makes him a liability.
So this is where Lori takes the kids to Rexburg after she's filed the insurance claim, but she doesn't tell anyone where they're going.
No.
So she's saying like, oh, Tylee's going to enroll in school. Doesn't tell them anything.
Yeah.
This is where Colby and Kelsey have a baby, so they have like their own stuff going on.
Which happens normally. You look at your family once you've sort of started your own family. Yeah. Not that the others aren't important anymore, but you've become...
I mean,
you've
your
got
time's
so much
taken.
to do. Then your family becomes priority, and the others, unless they contact you asking for something, it's not your first thought probably when you wake up. So
Colby messages Tylee on her birthday.
Gets a message back, but it's weird.
This made me think, because I was like, oh, I thought she didn't make it to her 17th birthday. And then when he got a reply, I was like, oh, okay, maybe she wasn't. And then he was like, the response wasn't weird. normal Tylee, and I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
How?
Because the friend also received one as well, and she said the same, that it was weird.
Like, I get you're trying to cover your tracks, but how dare you pretend to be your daughter that you've murdered and be like, oh yeah, thank you.
Oh, she's changed her number, that's why she's not, or like, we've lost your contact. You don't. That's how they've tripped themselves up, isn't it?
Yeah. This is when Kelsey starts to look into the emails that Charles kept sending before he was murdered.
Which in a way, even though it was weird for Charles to do that, it was a good fucking job he did.
Because he ended up sending a list of like a dark and light spirits.
Yeah, so that's what Chad had
sent to Lori. So I don't know how Charles got it, but he
Lori
forwarded it.
was sending emails pretending to be Charles.
Oh yeah. That's stupid.
Yeah, but obviously she'd linked herself back in.
Yes.
You know when you can forward and attach other people?
Yeah.
Somehow throughout that, then there was one that linked Chad with Lori, and in that it opened up an email that Chad had sent to Lori in which he rates people on a system from light to dark.
Yes.
And if you're dark, you're a demon, or your body has been taken over by a demon, and the actual body must be killed in order to save it.
Yes.
Which is where the zombies come in.
Yes, and then she notices that there's a dark thing against Charles's name, and then she notices Tylee and JJ. It's all very convenient. And then some other family members come into the picture because Brandon, who is Lori's niece's ex-husband, he is shot at, and the car that he spotted was Charles's, but he has been dead for months at this time. So the police are like, well, who's this?
Driving it?
Yes. Yeah. Then this is where Tammy was shot at. She also wasn't hit.
Yeah. So she's Chad's wife.
She's Chad's wife.
It was more to be like, I saw like an ambush at the house. Yeah. Because it was supposed to be a paintball gun, if I'm correct.
Or Tammy believed it was a paintball gun.
Yeah.
But it probably
and
just
that was obviously staged.
Yes.
By Chad. Because I wondered if it was Lori in that mask or if it was Alex. Because I couldn't remember if Alex was dead by this point.
Alex isn't dead yet.
So I felt like Chad had either persuaded Alex or Lori to dress up in the ski mask and the whole like.
Well, Chad was in the house, wasn't he? So yes.
And then he came to me out like, I'm man of the house, I'll save you. Like, it was like a hero complex.
Yeah, so and then Tammy does eventually die on October 19th. Chad...
Initially of natural causes.
Yes. Well, you would do that if you have a pillow over your face. Because she has been exhumed.
Now, but initially he didn't allow an autopsy.
No. So... Chad's kind of like this weird guy. He's kind of like getting people to marry. So they're in time for the end of the world, which is July 22nd of 2020.
Yes.
So there's a person in their group called Zulima.
Yeah.
She's supposed to marry Alex.
Yeah.
Yes.
She did the podcast with Melanie and things to start off with. She now marries Alex, who is obviously Lori's brother.
And I thought Alex was just kind of lonely and wanted a wife. And Chad was like, oh, here you go. You can have this one.
Yeah.
And she's
it was all orchestrated by Chad and Lori. They picked them deliberately.
Yeah, because also Lori's niece, who was married to Brandon, who was shot at, she also gets married to someone who she's only known for 2 weeks on the
same day.
Command of Charles.
Yeah.
Again.
And it happens on the same day that Alex marries the other lady. And I think that's then when Alex goes, oh, I'm going to end up being the fool guy for this, and then he dies very shortly afterwards. Yes.
Now it's November 2019. JJ's grandmother, she calls the police reporting her grandchild missing, as she's not seen him in 2 months. She's tried desperately to see him for months. Yeah. She's only seen him on like the iPad. He would like call every
for a few seconds. Yeah.
And then this is where it all kind of unravels.
Yes.
So she tries to report him missing. The police go to... Well, she can't find where they are. Yeah. Somehow, Kay gets into an Amazon. She sees an Amazon on Charles's Amazon account.
Yeah, because Lori's ordering stuff through Charles's account after he's died.
Yes.
Obviously, with Kay being Charles's mum, it flags up the immediate thing. Like, my son has been dead for several weeks. Why is things being bought in? Is it his sister?
Sister.
I thought it was his mum.
Sister.
I thought Kay was Charles's mum.
No, she's his sister. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and then it's Kay's daughter who can't look after the child. Yeah, okay. Sorry. It's because I'm thinking older.
Yeah, it gets confusing. So Lori orders a wedding ring off Amazon, and then Kay sees the new home address. This is where the police come in to it.
Because she hands that address over.
Yes. And then when the police get there, they see that Chad is at the front door.
Along with Alex.
And turns out Alex, Lori, Melanie all moved to Rexburg. And then the police are like, where's JJ? And then Lori's like, he's in, is it Arizona with my friend? And then her friend's just like, why'd you tell him that?
Yeah. See, this was confusing because initially Alex and Chad say, oh, it must be with... no, they say he's with Kay. And then they go, and the police officer's like, well, it can't be because she's the one that's told us to come and do the welfare check. And then they're like, oh, go ask Lori. And Lori's like, yeah, he's with my friend Melanie. And then obviously at the meantime, they're also messaging Melanie, telling her not to answer the phone if a police officer does it. She then obviously rings them back but records the episode. I feel like the police have got to her before.
Yeah, which is good on her part.
She then records it. But you say that, but I watched a thing in the news the other day after I watched this, and when she's given evidence, I don't know if a little bit of it is her. I don't think she was necessarily involved in the murders, but I wonder if she's trying to cover her own arse a little bit. I think she realised what was going on was wrong. She had concerns, could have done something about it soon. Like, I think she knew about the other murders and how involved the other pair were.
Maybe not murders. Maybe she has a suspicion, because if they're all of a sudden like, oh, zombies, and then you're like...
I don't think she agreed with it, but I think she also knew that what Alex did to Thingy wasn't in self-defense. I think she's already getting a bit worried about it.
Yeah.
But rather than going to the police when she could have, she's like, I'm going to go along with it. And then they stop getting her in the shit, and then she's thinking, hang on a minute.
Yeah, but if you don't have any proof, you can't be like, I think they've done something. So unless she wants to get that proof to be like, so I have something tangible so I can show you. Otherwise, the police are just going to turn her away, aren't they? Lori can just be like, oh, no, my son's in wherever, and yeah. So I think I don't think she's part of the group. I don't think she's like as the extreme. I don't think she's under the control of Chad.
I just think she knows a lot more than she's letting on, and I think the way she's going to do it through the trial is she's going to try and cut herself off like she hasn't done anything, or like she didn't know anything about it. Like, there's nothing she could have done, and I feel like there's a lot she could have done.
Yeah. So the children have been missing for 2 months at this time, but they're not like officially missing until December. Tammy's body is exhumed December 11th.
Yeah.
December 12th, Alex dies.
Yes.
And
supposedly of natural causes.
I think he had blood clots in his lungs.
Yes, but I've also then read other reports, because I wanted to go and double check some stuff afterwards because I had a few questions. Someone said he did have a drug in him which is given to people for overdoses.
Maybe.
How correct that is, because it was from a newspaper article, how correct that is, I'm not entirely sure. But if it is true, it then throws up my original suspicions of, yes, it could have been natural causes, but could it have been natural causes from the extreme stress he was under?
Yeah.
Due to the fact he's killed a person, possibly multiple people.
Or is he just being the fall guy, like he says to his wife, but he can't actually say anything?
Yeah, so the stress from that. Or have they made it look like natural causes because he's about to blab? Or could he have killed himself?
According to phone records, which aren't, I believe, in the TV show, his phone is at the burial sites of both children.
Yeah.
So his phone is definitely there, and it's not likely that you're going to go without your phone.
Oh no, I feel like once Chad and Lori got him involved, like he had no choice. He had to be there whether he wanted to be there or not.
And Chad and Lori got married on the 5th of November. This is before the body of Tammy is exhumed.
Exhumed, but only a couple of weeks after she's died.
Yeah, which is very... If that happened with my parents, I'd be like, excuse you? What are you doing?
It's not been very long.
They also get married in Hawaii, which
is where they'd originally grown up with Colby.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was a bit pissed off about that, which to be fair you would, because it kind of ruins your childhood memories.
To be fair. Yes, at the time of recording this, Lori's trial is ongoing, so we don't know. She's probably going to be found guilty, I assume. Apparently she fell asleep.
Oh.
During day whatever. Some speculate that she's medicated because she was crying, because this was...
Because obviously the other thing that happened is, the reason the trial hasn't gone ahead before now is because she was sent for an evaluation because they deemed her to be mentally unfit. She couldn't have a fair trial.
To be fair, if you believe everything that she...
believe, you're fucked in the head.
Yes. But here's a controversial view.
Okay.
So if you believe in heaven, hell, God, devil, whatever. There's a woman in the show, I can't remember her name. She's like the light version of Chad. She's like, yes. I see stuff.
No, this is the other thing I forgot. I fucking hated her. The second she came in, she's all like, oh, sweetness and light. And she was like, when I first met Chad, he was just this guy. And she was like, he wasn't attractive and he was wearing just this t-shirt and just cheap tennis shoes. I'm thinking, you're supposed to be a lovely lady. Why are you slagging people off like on their first appearances? I went, you're not Lady of the Light. Like, do you know what I mean? As soon as she came on, I was like, nope.
I've seen her on like court TV talking about it, and I'm like, okay. It's like, you're not supposed to talk about your gift if you have a gift in this situation.
She's the one that, even if she genuinely had it, you can't believe it because she looks so fucking cuckoo.
Yeah. But she's just like, okay, yeah, if you have gifts, you don't go about it the way you go about it.
Yeah.
So, what I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry, I got you distracted.
It kind of
crazy
relates.
lady.
It kind of relates to her.
Was her name Julie something?
I think so. Her theory. So like, yes, like she says, there's a light and dark version. So her seeing a certain thing, she's not killed anyone with it.
Nope.
Chad sees anything. So what Chad is seeing, maybe the devil's telling him that doing it. Therefore, he's doing the
devil's work,
killing these people, because God wouldn't want you to kill people. So maybe his message got interpreted wrong, or Satan actually sent him the message, and he's just like, well, this, because like, how do you know that it's God telling you and not the devil? Because I don't think
I don't really get it.
God would be telling you to kill someone, especially children.
But then that's where later Lori brought in that thing. There's a thing with Abraham and someone else. It's very confusing. I'll be honest.
I think that was a threat. It's like, oh, you're supposed to attempt to kill your children, and before you actually do the act, I'm going to come along. He's going to
stop you and tell you, like, no, I was just testing you.
And then no one came to, because then, you know, maybe the devil got in and he was just like, ha, I tricked you.
Do you think she killed the kids, or do you think Chad killed them? Or Alex? I wonder if Alex was forced to subdue them. Chad did the killing. She was just there.
It might have been all three.
Because I don't know.
Burying them, she didn't bury them.
She's obviously allowed it to go ahead, but especially with Tylee. JJ, not so much, because it wasn't biologically her child, and I think she was finding him difficult. But Tylee, I don't... As much as she's evil and fucked in the head, I can't imagine her killing her. Charles, I could imagine her killing, and JJ, I could imagine her killing. Tylee, I couldn't.
The way... Do you know how their bodies were?
Yeah, so JJ, obviously, he was wrapped up in a bag, and obviously had duct tape over his mouth. That was then... He was in his pyjamas.
Tylee was...
completely like... Well, this sounds... might want to do a trigger warning. In the later trial, as it's already started, she was described as being in blobs.
Yeah, blobs, like
in a bucket, melted bucket. Yeah.
She was basically burnt, but obviously
you can't burn bones left. So a bit of a skull, I think it was, I believe, and some other bones.
And there was a pickaxe found with her DNA on it. So yeah, apparently like the way JJ's bound is like a ball of like duct tape. That's how much he has, and he has like so many layers from like his mouth to his forehead of duct tape around his face. The way that there's different, one's very extreme, and then the other one's kind of like taken care of. Yeah,
and I feel like Lori obviously had more towards her daughter than she did JJ. I feel like in the end JJ was...
She conspired to kill them.
Yes. Oh yeah, she definitely had something to do with their murder. Ultimately, she's just as responsible. Yeah. I don't think she did the physical killing.
No. She planned, obviously, Charles's death, because then, like, the messages between her and Chad, and it's like, oh, yeah, 2 shots in the chest would do that or something. That annoyed me.
But I also think as well, Chad wanted her to have Charles killed first to see whether she wanted to do it. Because I feel like if she hadn't have done that, I don't think he would have killed his wife.
Oh, no.
I think he only killed his wife because it's like, well, she's done her bit now. Shit, I best do mine. Otherwise, I'm not going to look like the god that I'm supposed to be. So now I'm going to have to kill her. I think he got a taste for it, and I feel like he killed the kids. But I do think Alex subdued them, because there was another
kids
thing...
Kids died first.
What? No, Charles died first.
Charles died first, then the kids, then Tammy.
Okay. So... Yeah, so I wonder if that's then when Chad got involved in it. I don't know, even though as though Alex actually killed the kids. I think he subdued them, because there was another thing. I can't remember if it was in the documentary or if it's something I read later.
Melanie sees Alex carrying
him
JJ.
in, and it looks like he's asleep, but someone said they felt like he was already dead at that point.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'd given him some drugs, and that's what Alex's part was. He was taken out for a fun day, subdued him on the way home, brought him back for the others to kill. That's how it went. Maybe Lori could have been in on the actual physical killing of that, but yeah, Tylee, I don't think she physically killed her. I know they can't do an autopsy on her because of how her remains are, but it would have been interesting to know how she'd been killed. I would have hoped they've done something like they've subdued her first, like poisoned her or something. Like, not poisoned her, but do you know what I mean? Like, overdosed her on something.
Yeah, so she wasn't aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also feel like then there's a part of me that's worried that because she knew what was going on, I wonder if she didn't like it when she got there. She's had an argument with her mum, and mum's like, oh, I knew you were turning into one of the dark ones. And then she's just like, I'm going to tell everyone what you've done. Like, she couldn't take it anymore. Maybe mental health was getting her. Because you think, look at her age now, hormones were also involved.
Yeah.
She's a teenager. Did Tylee snap and go, I'm going to tell everyone, or I'm going to run back home to Grandma and Colby and tell them everything you've done? And they're like, shit, we've got to quickly silence her. So did they kill her in another much more brutal, unplanned attack? And that's why they've had to burn her.
I think she was unplanned. The way, like, they're trying to get rid of her body compared to JJ's.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because it was unplanned sperm. It's like, quick, we've got to get rid of everything. Was it really messy? I know that sounds a horrible thought.
Yeah.
But was it so, like, there's no way we can describe this or make it look like natural causes? Like, if they dug up her whole body, they would say, I don't know, multiple blows or something. Yeah. It would be obvious it wasn't natural.
Yeah.
So they've had to get rid of her.
Did you also know that Chad used to be a gravedigger?
I did not know that.
Before he became an author, or when he was a kid.
Yeah, because he was a missionary before.
Yes.
Obviously, part of the religion, they have to go off. And effectively, a missionary, for anyone who doesn't know, you have to get so many people to join...
the religion.
Yeah, the religion. I was about to say the cult, and I was like...
this part's not the cult.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, depending on how you want to look at religion, some people might see it as a cult.
So yeah, I think for like a summer he was a grave digger, so he kind of knows how to
he's had the preparation then.
Yeah, so he kind of knew how to dig a body. And then,
although to be fair, it's not that hard, is it?
No, but like I think the way JJ was buried, it was more like a grave rather than like me and you digging a grave.
Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting how they'd done different. I'm surprised they didn't try to get rid of JJ more, like, or was it a case of they didn't really have time? Were people already? Because we don't know at the moment the difference in the time between when Tylee died and JJ died.
It's either a few weeks or a month or something like that.
But because we don't know exactly, I wonder, were they disturbed? And that's also why they didn't completely dispose of his body. Did someone else appear?
Yeah, and I think it's also they kind of want the people that are keeping them apart out of the way. And what's surefire way to get rid of those people? Murder.
Yeah. But yeah, they definitely would have gone on. I feel like they would have been ones, if they'd been allowed to get away with that, then I genuinely believe they would have set up a camp somewhere, like bought land with the money from...
That's probably what they were trying to do.
From killing Tammy, yeah. They would have built a whole place, and like those are the ones where they end up building their massive churches, and then they get thousands of people in, and then when it all goes wrong, rather than admitting they've gone wrong, they
mass suicide. Yeah.
They genuinely would have created something like that. Like, hands down, like, people go, oh, you can't really predict that, blah, blah, blah. But, like, to me, they would have been a modern day.
It is funny that they think the end of their world was, I think, July 22nd. And that's when, like, Chad was arrested or the bodies were found. I can't remember. So it really was the end of the world for them.
Yeah, but also, when they mentioned about date, it was something in 2020. Obviously, we all know, like, COVID kicked off then. And I was thinking... not quite the same apocalypse, but things did go quite wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, to me, but it's always the same with those types of cult. It's always, the world's going to end and only so many people can survive, so you must subscribe to our religion, and we'll be able to save you.
It's also like, how can you, like, murder your husband, your children, the other spouse, go to Hawaii where you like enjoyed with those people that you murdered, get married.
But that's where I think she was so mentally disturbed by this point. Like, it was such a delusion.
Get married, and they're all like, oh, we're like having a luau on the beach. And it's like,
but I think she was delusional by this point. Could you even throw in? I haven't got any proof of it, but could she have been on drugs? Like, could she have been starting to take drugs by this? But like to get herself through everything. She obviously wasn't in her right mind anyway. Could whatever mental health illness she's got, because I'm pretty certain she's got one, and she's had it for a long time.
Yeah.
Could that now be either changed or manifesting in different ways? Like, it's really took a hold of her. Like, she's got really bad. She's also then with a manipulative psychopath cult leader who's, do you know what I mean, fueling it even more.
It's also horrible that she's just murdered her own children.
But that's why I think she doesn't seem bothered about it. I don't think it's a case of she's not bothered. I think she's just so numb to everything now. Like, she's dulled it out.
Or I think she genuinely believes that she killed the zombies.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's made her so delusional that she thinks, well, I haven't done anything wrong. Like, that's what you've got to do.
It's also like, oh, how convenient that the people that are murdering aren't the dark people.
But again, I think Alex was coaxed into that. I don't think he would have murdered anyone naturally. But again, I do think he also had other mental health. It would have been interesting to know more about their family tree, like, further back. I wonder if there was a history of mental health things. Because it's like, even the mum, I thought she seemed a bit cuckoo. And, like, when she went on the TV to do an interview, like, my daughter is innocent.
To be fair, I think you do want to, like, see your child as innocent until you are proven otherwise.
You don't do an interview like that.
Yeah.
Like, it was a bad move. Like, I know she admitted it.
I mean,
later,
she
like,
made up for it, yeah.
But I also think she's a bit in the loony bin. I don't know, I just got a feeling.
Controversial opinion, but okay.
It is, but you know when you watch things and, like, instantly, as soon as I saw her, I thought, yeah, she seems a bit off as well. Do you know what I mean? You know, when just in those first few minutes, I instantly thought, like, she's mentally ill, the other guy's going to be a cult leader, the mum seems a bit cuckoo. Then when he mentioned the brother, I went, the brother's going to be cuckoo. Like, effectively, once, as it transpired and more unfolded, I'm thinking, well, yeah, I really wasn't far off, was I?
Yeah.
And I could technically still possibly be right. I think I just had a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, when it started and I was like, this is going to be a cult.
So, yeah, maybe you're right. There is mental health running throughout that family. But hopefully everyone involved gets...
help.
Yes. Yes. Especially after that. But, yeah, so... today kind of marks our 1 year anniversary.
Is this when this comes out?
Yeah.
Obviously, because for us, we're recording a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's...
1 year.
1 year. Well, we survived 1 year.
So, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Happy anniversary to you too. I was about to say, I love you then.
Aww.
I do love you, Natasha.
I love you too.
There you go.
But yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Those listening, thank you for listening.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe other people have some opinions on this. And if you haven't gone and watched the full thing, I know we've kind of gone through it all, but you might want to go and watch
it's
it all yourself.
very... trying to explain the actual crimes is
it's
very...
so fucked up.
Yeah. And all over the place. That trying to do an actual, like, sit down of, like, this happened.
Yeah.
Like, I remember trying to tell you about it once, and I'm just like... and then this person was murdered, and it's just like...
it's so complicated. Yeah. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
There's so many twists and turns.
You wouldn't believe it's real life.
No. But then, like I said, you go back to these other court things. They also seem... like, you know, when I look at them, I go, how do people fall for that? And then you look at it and think, yeah, okay, it takes a certain type of person. But he definitely would have been a court leader.
Oh, yeah.
No...
I think that's what he wanted, especially when he's like,
yeah,
my work scripture.
I'm slightly worried that he will still, like, you know, from inside prison. Because there was one of the other cool things they did when they went to prison.
He's not allowed any communication with anyone. He's always by himself.
Okay, that's good then. Because there was another court where when they did go to prison, they were still preaching from the prison. Yeah. And I'm slightly worried that's what he was going to do.
No, he's not allowed any interaction with any inmates or anyone. He's by himself.
Good. Because he would full on become a court leader and he'd raise a whole fucking army from prison. He would. He just seems the type.
Yeah. It's very interesting that their trials aren't happening at the same time.
But I also think that's a good thing because the charges are slightly different as well.
Yeah.
Because they're actually trying them for the crimes of Tammy and the two children, not Charles.
Yeah.
But then Lori's being tried separately.
Yeah.
For being, I did write it down. Hang on, let me have a look. She for conspiracy
to commit.
Well, let me have a look. She's indicted on conspiracy murder charges for allegedly arranging for her brother Alex to shoot and kill charge. So conspiracy to murder. Yeah, that's what she's got an extra on. Whereas they haven't indicted Charles on that. But then, to be fair, I don't know. Not, I think he probably encouraged the whole Charles situation, but he wasn't physically involved. That was definitely between Lori and Alex. But I have a horrible gut feeling. I think Tylee saw the whole thing. I don't think it happened after she walked out of the house. I don't think she did the whole bat thing and then they grabbed the bat. I know there was a bat there. I don't think that interaction happened. I think they shot him in front of her. And the one was like, quick, let's go to school, children. Because obviously JJ was already in the car. Yeah. And I think she was just like, come on, Tylee, we'll just pretend this doesn't happen. We'll go to school. We're not going to say anything. Uncle Alex will deal with it. And then she's telling her, she drops JJ off at school. She tells her story, goes to KFC, goes and gets her fucking flip-flops or whatever she goes to buy.
That annoyed me as well.
And then she's just saying to Tylee, like, this is what we're going to say it is. We're going to say it's self-defence, blah, blah, blah. And Tylee's probably thinking, well, I can't go against my mum. Like, I'm in the shit. Like, I'm in it now. And she goes, the only way to save me now is, like, I'm doing God's work. It's like, the only way you can get this, otherwise you're going to be on your own, is we're going to say that he attacked us and Uncle Alex had no choice but to do it. You didn't see any of it. You weren't in the house. It means you can't get in trouble. It means I can't get in trouble. We can stay together. You've just got to go along with my version of the story. And I genuinely think that's what she made do. And that's why...
It's like Mum's going to protect you.
Yeah. And when Tylee spoke to the police, that's why she went along with the bat thing. I don't think that bat thing was even a thing. She watched Charles get shot.
Yeah, so I don't like this. I hoped that the kids were alive when it was originally going on, but at that time they were already dead. So
yeah,
so it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
It's more the kids. Like that's the thing with these school. Like it's just the children that are innocently dragged into it. Yeah. But then in a weird way, the children shouldn't have died in the way they died. But you look at if they'd still been alive, how fucked up would they have been?
Yeah.
So is it a slight blessing that they've now not got to live with that trauma? I'm not saying they should have been killed, but do you know what I mean?
They could have been conditioned that way, and then they could have been unconditioned.
Yeah, but then you think the trauma, if Tylee had, let's hypothesise she had seen Charles's murder, how's she going to live with that for the rest of her life? Even with all the counselling and therapy in the world, she would still know that that's what she's witnessed. You wouldn't ever be able to get that out of your head.
I just hope she wasn't aware that she was being murdered by her own mother.
I think she was. I think she knew. I think she knew she was going to die.
Probably.
I just have a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
I think she knew even from when she did that interview with the police. She knew. She knew what was going to happen. And I think that's why she went along with it.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to do it. And then by the time it got to the point they were moving to Wrexham, I think she knew that the mum was moving them there to kill them. And I think that's why she was crying when she spoke to the grandma, because she knew she was about to die. I know it sounds horrible and it's a really horrible thought and it's one that people aren't going to want to have. But I think she knew she was going to die. I think she knew then. And that's why she was crying. It was like that was her final goodbye. Because she knew she was never going to see them again.
Yeah.
It sounds harsh and horrible, but the reality is... Because she was a lot more intelligent than you know, and she wasn't young. She was 16.
Yeah, she knows. She kind of knows. But yeah, to leave it on that note.
Yeah, very depressing. Nobody's not a nice case, is it? There's no way to make it flowery and fluffy and pretty with sparkly unicorns, is there? So... It's shit.
Death was involved and it was horrible and yeah. So yes.
Well, let's hope they are found guilty and rot in hell. So
Yep.
In their eternal heavenly flame.
The heavenly fire. It's not heavenly fire. I've never heard of heavenly fire. Anyway. Yes.
Yeah. I guess that's it for today.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
keep creeping
and we'll keep digging.